Hi, hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are starting another reading vlog. So I'm really excited for this week's reading vlog. It is tackling one of my 2026 reading goals, and that is to read more new releases. One of the reasons that I wanted to read more frontlist titles is because I think a lot of the conversations that are happening in publishing and what people are currently really into are kind of lost on me, since I mostly read backlist titles. That's just something that I do. Usually by the time the Goodreads Choice Awards rolls out, I am completely at a loss because I've read maybe like one or two books on that list, if that. I know the Goodreads Choice Awards is just like a popularity contest, but it is a good measure to see like what people are currently into. And I'm not reading any of those things, so that was a goal for me in 2026. I don't really buy a lot of new releases, so in order to help me with this reading vlog, and if I do future installments of this series, I am going to be relying on bookish subscription services, the bookish boxes. I have not been a big buyer of these for quite some time in my bookish life, but in the last few months I have been buying a few of these boxes. I'm currently subscribed to 4 subscription services, and I did cancel 2 recently just for like money saving purposes. But let me tell you what those are. This is not sponsored, by the way. This is just what I'm paying for with my own money, and these are companies that I do like supporting. I do like their books. I am currently subscribed to the Illumicrate box. They mostly send out fantasy. I'm also subscribed to their Evernight box. This is their quarterly horror bookish box, so I don't receive this every month. I also pay for the Broken Binding. This used to be every other month, but they recently changed their policy that they are going to be sending out this book or this box every single month now, so I'm going to get a lot more of these packages. And the last bookish box that I do currently subscribe to is the Fairy Loot YA and Adult combo box. So in a given month I could receive 5 brand new books from these companies, sometimes less. So I mostly do thrift or go to the library for my books, so books can pile up pretty quickly. You know this if you like buy books on your own, but this is basically where I'm going to pull from for new releases. But I feel like these companies might have a good idea of what is interesting and new. I'm going to go back to my shelves and we're going to choose my first read. I don't think I have anything else to say. Oh, I do want to mention, I know that the internet moves pretty quickly, and what is considered a new release might be different for different people. For me, if it's published within the last publishing year, it counts as a new release. I know if something's like 3 months old on the internet, it's basically ancient. That's not how it works here. So if it's a few months old, that's still fine. It's still considered a new release to me. But I think that's it. So let's get started. Thanks for stopping by. Let's go back here and choose my first read. Okay, so this is kind of where my new releases kind of live. Again, I don't really buy a ton of new releases all that often. Like I said, I mostly thrift and go to the library, but this is what we're working with. As you can see, again, like I said, they're mostly like special editions from book boxes. I'm also currently on the floor, by the way, so if I'm like moving around a lot, I'm trying to find like a good angle for me, but you can also see what we have. Some really cool releases. Like I have Operation Bounce House here. I also have what's in The Second Death of Locke right here. All That We See or Seem right here as well. But I'm gonna choose book 1 first, just so I can start off with like something that I do really want to read. But I thought a good idea for this, because I'm such a indecisive person, I thought I could turn this old candle thing, this was a candle, into a TBR for new releases, like a TBR jar. That's what it's called, a TBR jar. I thought I could turn this into a TBR jar, and for book 2 I'll pick out what's I should read next. But I'm gonna choose book 1 because it's my vlog. The book that I'm the most interested in is The Poet Empress by Shen. This one's got a lot of positive reviews for the most part, and I also always personally have good luck when it comes to fantasy that's not European inspired. This is still in the wrapper. I have not taken it out, so I'm gonna do that right now. So this is the Illumicrate exclusive. I mean, this is beautiful. This is probably one of my favorites that I've gotten from this service. They've had some really other pretty ones that I didn't get because I wasn't subscribed at the time, but I think this is stunning. This is what the end papers look like. If you're interested in maybe trying out this service, this is kind of the standard, and the naked. I mean, come on. And this is the spine. I'm not sure too much about what this one is about. I do know that I think like poetry magic is what the magic is based on. And we follow a young rice farmer named Yin Wei who is forced to become a concubine for the prince. Apparently he's like horrible and he's locked in a succession war with his brother. And I think our main character is going to try to take down the man that she's forced to be a concubine for. I think there's also going to be like concubine like court intrigue where concubines kind of like vie to be like the next empress. I think that's also going to be here. I'm not sure if this is a series or a standalone. Either way, I'm fine with that. But this is going to be our first read for the new releases vlog. Very excited. I will be back when I have a good taste of this book and come back with an update. So is this okay camera wise? Can't tell. Anyways, so I do have a bit of an update. Do a reading update. I haven't gone too far, but I thought I'd give you my first thoughts on The Poet Empress by Shen. I am liking kind of the somberness of the writing. Our main character, I need to say, has grown up incredibly poor. The book opens up, not a spoiler, but the book does open up with her and her family burying her like 5th sibling or something, because they all died of like malnourishment. Very poor. I don't mean like, oh, we kind of struggle, like very poor. They talk about how they, you know, on special occasions might have like clean white rice to eat, but for the most part, like they are eating like bone broth, like very basic stuff. So they're not in a good place, as is a lot of people from their little village. So the sadness, the somberness of the author's writing, I appreciate that. One thing that I also want to mention and kind of talk about a little bit is the depiction of impoverished people in like fantasy, specifically like fantasy women. And again, I do want to say that I've never grown up incredibly poor. I am very lucky that I grew up like middle class, your standard like middle class suburban like upbringing. I'm so grateful. I know so many people struggle and are struggling right now, but something that I see a lot in fantasy, especially when it's like a female main character who's struggling financially, poverty, things like that, is sometimes, and this is not necessarily wrong, but sometimes they're kind of depicted as like, oh, like I know I'm like dirt poor, I'm broke, I haven't had a good meal in forever or ever, and there's an opportunity to better my life, but I'm above it because of XYZ moral reasons. And again, that's totally fine, and I don't have a problem with that. Everyone has different standards, morals, whatever, but I feel like we don't get the opposite of that in fantasy a lot of the time, especially from our main character, where they have grown up poor, and if there's an opportunity to enrich their life, no matter what it is, they are so downtrodden that they're gonna take it. And our main character is very open about the fact that like this opportunity to be the concubine of a very horrible emperor in waiting is something that she's willing to take. She's willing to take that risk just so she has food in her stomach, her family has food in their stomachs, and her brother has the opportunity to maybe go learn how to read and potentially like do magic or whatever. And she's like, no, like I'm gonna take this opportunity. I don't care if I get hurt. I don't care if this man is the worst person in the world. I don't want to live like this anymore. And I think that kind of level of desperation, I don't see that too much, or if it is, it's not really highlighted that much in like the character work in these types of fantasy books where someone kind of tries to get out of like the trenches. So I appreciate seeing that here. We'll see how that continues to manifest. I really like the kind of conflicted feelings that our main character has. So again, she's grown up in a village that is very, very poor, and naturally your leaders, the emperors, the, you know, whoever's in charge of the land is supposed to like help their people so they're not dirt poor, but obviously that's not going to happen. People in power rarely help the people who are that impoverished. And so during one like New Year's festival, one of the princes, there's like 4 princes or emperor princes, comes to the village and like grows a bunch of random trees, fruits. That's like his magic. And she's like, I should hate this man, I should hate this individual because his family has done jack shit for us, but he just grew like a peach tree and I've had my first peach ever and it's the most delicious thing and I can't help but be so grateful. And she has that kind of conflicted feelings, like moments like that, character stuff like that. I really appreciate that nuance in a character, especially coming from someone who's like that impoverished. That's something that I've been thinking about lately a lot. If I didn't explain the plot, my bad, I just kept talking. But in this book we follow a character named Wei, and again, like I said, super poor, but the emperor, who's in sick, like failing health, has recently switched his heir from the firstborn to the secondborn. Again, he has like 4 sons, but he switched from the firstborn to the secondborn. And now that the secondborn is going to be the emperor, he needs concubines, and so he sends out like a message to all his eunuchs that he's looking for possible concubines. And so a bunch of young women go to the palace to like compete to be some of his concubines, and our main character manages to get there. And like I said, I'm not that far along. We haven't even met this emperor in waiting, who's supposed to be like the scariest, most like brutal, like he like tortures and cuts people's tongues out. He could be or could not be. It could just be rumors, propaganda, whatever. But there's also like a line of succession or like a succession war that might be brewing, since the firstborn is supposed to be the emperor typically, but for some reason the emperor switched his heir. Drama, I'm hoping, will come about. I think this is a standalone, so we'll see how much the author can like wrap up these threads. I'm assuming there's also going to be a little bit of a romance, so we'll see how this author wraps up some of these threads. That's my update. Not too much, but I do have books to share. I love how in the beginning of this video I was like, yeah, I don't usually buy like new releases. I don't come across them all too often. I mostly shop on Pango, used books like on Pango or like Goodwill. The only way I get like new books is through subscription services, and I did get a subscription box. Let me show you what I got. So here's a stack of books. I'll quickly go through the Fairy Loot book box because that's the subscription. I'm gonna be honest, Fairy Loot's been having some like shipping issues and they're getting like dragged. So I get the adult YA combo box. I don't get the romantasy. A lot of the adult and YA stuff already has romantic elements, so you know, I don't get it. But the adult box is, or the adult book for this month is very popular, I want to say. I've been seeing it everywhere, and that is Weaving Shaw by Heba Al-Wasiti. I've seen this book everywhere. First of all, stunning. Here is the edges. Here are some artwork and papers. That's really nice. And then the naked, oh, I love a naked hardback. But this book, I believe, is kind of supposed to be a bit darker. So I believe in this book we follow a character named Lena, and her brother's either sick or dying or something along those lines. And in order to save her life, she's going to go to this saint who trades coins for secrets or something. And so she has a secret. I think she can like talk to the dead or see the dead, so she's gonna like tell him her secret. But I'm sure like much more stuff happens than that really shitty summary I just gave. But I've heard a lot of people fairly like this book, so we'll see how I feel about this. As usual, Fairy Loot has very beautiful editions. And then I also got The Sun and the Starmaker. This is their YA book by Rachel Griffin. This one's really stunning. I've heard that it's kind of giving like Bear and the Nightingale vibes, which I have read The Bear and the Nightingale, the first book. I did really like it. Also, I love this artwork. Here are the edges. I don't want to read the full summary because it's very lengthy, but I believe our main character is very intrigued, or she's enchanted by this elusive Starmaker and his enchanted palace. There's some sort of danger and she must uncover the truth before winter claims everything. So maybe it's like a fantasy with like climate elements. I'm not quite sure. This is so pretty. Anyways, that is my Fairy Loot. I still have more books. So I woke up the other day and I had a package from St. Martin's Press. Obviously it's from Tor Publishing Group because it has all the Tor stuff on it. I did not know what this was. I did not ask for anything, but I must have signed up for some sort of like sweepstakes or something, or like a newsletter, and I just like threw in my address or whatever. But I did get 2 ARCs. So these are technically new releases. They will be going in my new releases section for this video. I got Morsel by Carter Keene. This is a kind of short little story. I believe it's like folk horror. Its releases on April 2026. I think that April 14th, 2026. It's a folk horror, and we follow a woman who is a property appraiser, and she goes somewhere in the very scary Appalachian woods area to appraise some property, and she takes her dog with her for whatever reason, but she quickly feels like something's watching her or hunting her. If something happens, listen, if something happens to this dog, I don't know what I'll do. I hate when dogs die. I obviously love dogs. You can hear him snoring. So this is a new release. They did give me an arc for a book that has already been released. Maybe they had arcs left over, but this is Nowhere Burning by Katrina Ward. I haven't read anything from this author, though. People who really like this author really like this author. I believe this came out in February of this year. This kind of also sounds maybe folk. I'm not quite sure. This follows two siblings who are teenagers who are kind of runaways, and they want to run away to this place called Nowhere Ranch, I think it's what it's called, which used to be owned by a celebrity, and then he like killed himself on the property, and maybe it's haunted, maybe something weird is going on. And this one takes place in the Rocky Mountains, so that's why I'm getting maybe folk elements. The other takes place in the Appalachia area, but again, these are gonna go on the new releases shelf. And then I have one more book to share because I did go book shopping on my own. And I also picked up The Wax Child by Olga Ravin. I was really intrigued by this. Also, this cover's not bad, but the other cover is stunning. I believe this is nominated either for like the International Booker or maybe the Women's Prize. I'm not quite sure which one because I've been watching a lot of prize lists like recently, but this is on the long list of one of those, and this seems really interesting. I want to say that this follows a fictional take on the real witchcraft trial of a woman in like Denmark, I want to say. Yeah, so it takes place in 17th century Denmark, and we are following a fictionalized take on the actual witchcraft trial of a woman, but it's told from the perspective of a wax child, which I believe is a tool in witchcraft, and we see this story from the perspective of this wax child. I think that this is mostly supposed to focus on the kind of clashing of beliefs of traditional, more folk beliefs and the ever encroaching, I'm assuming, Catholicism, and I think that sounded really interesting. I love that theme of like clashing beliefs, especially one that's more traditional and rooted in like local customs and like a larger, more empirical type of culture. And like based on the cover and what I've heard, it's supposed to be very atmospheric. I'm hoping that this is good because it's been like raved about a lot. So yeah, this is also gonna go on the new releases shelves, and I've already added it into my acorn. I did manage to make my TBR acorn jar. Again, this is only for new releases. I don't want to let any of these new books kind of like fall by the wayside, so occasionally if I'm in the mood for something new, I'll pick out something from here, or if I do another iteration of this vlog, I'll pick out some stuff from here. I went from a modest I started with like 17 new releases on my shelves, and I just added 5. So that's fun. I did also add 2 books. I was looking through my shelves. I did also add 2 books that I hadn't seen before. And I'm like, oh wait, those are technically new releases. And they fit within like the 1-year time frame. The stack's getting a little bigger within the vlog. And I said it doesn't actually grow that bad, but it does. New releases do pile up. And I did order some stuff recently. So yeah. Anyways, that's the update. I will come back when I have something to say about the Poet Empress. That was for the thumbnail. Okay, so I'm about halfway through the Poet Empress, and I have like okay thoughts about this so far. I'm not super blown away by anything really. What this author is doing is very clearly talking on domestic abuse, violence against women, the expectations that women have, what women are expected to do, whether they are like a woman of high standing or not. And she's doing that like well, like she's pretty, like she's hitting the nail on the head. So like I said before, our main character wants to become a concubine because that would give some benefits to her family, like sending home like gifts and blessings like that, except that the man that she wants to be a concubine for, the second prince, he is horrible, he is evil. And for a moment I thought this author was going to do that thing that romantasy authors do, where like the prince is like thought to be like super like horrible, like evil, like torturer, but like secretly he's actually a good person. That I don't think the author is doing that. I don't want to spoil anything, but the second prince is horrible. I keep, because of the way the genre has been going, I keep thinking that there's going to be a heel turn and the second prince is not a horrible person who like tortures animals and like kills servants for fun, but it seems like he is the worst person ever, and our main character is abused by him constantly. At this point, we're not even getting mentions of abuse anymore because you just know it's happening, and which is very sad. Writing wise, I think it started off well because there was a kind of sadness and somberness to it, because our main character, like, the story literally opens up with having to bury another sibling. They're super poor, and so I kind of get that. I would like the writing to kind of add more to the like deception-y vibes that are going on. Our main character, I won't tell you exactly what happens, but she is amongst other concubines and they play their own games, their own political stuff, and I don't know, it just doesn't feel as gripping as I think it could be writing wise. I don't know if this is a debut or not, but yeah, that could be just like a debut thing. Yes, this is her debut. This is Chantal's first book. I feel like we've gotten like a good amount of stuff, and like I know where the story is going. I know what like the what our main character is working towards. I'm just wanting more. I don't know if that makes sense. I feel like there's a lot of like hype around this book, and I'm wondering if the hype really comes from the second half. How the story's been built up so far is good. I think that's pretty much my thoughts so far. I am starting to see something with our main character that I have enjoyed. It's kind of a bit of nuance to it. Our main character is not a bad person. She just wants the most for her family. She wants her brother to go to school, things like that. And she's like she doesn't have like a mean bone in her body. She doesn't want to like cause people problems, but because she has to play this game, this political game, she's doing things that she doesn't want to do. And there's a moment where again, I'm trying not to give spoilers, but there's a moment where she has the opportunity to hurt someone, as other people in court hurt other people, and so she takes that opportunity. And I really liked that character development / regression, whatever you want to call it. I think that was interesting. I kind of want to see more from that, because she kind of just falls back into the whole, well, let me see if I can play the game without hurting anyone, but that's kind of hard to do, you know. We'll see if the second half picks up in an interesting way, but if we kind of just progress the way it's been progressing and then it ends, I don't know, I'd probably give it like a 3.5, maybe a 4 if I'm being generous, but we'll see. I have no problem unhauling this if I don't like it. It is a beautiful book, but I have a lot of books on my shelves, and I'm sure I'll get more beautiful books in the future because I'm subscribed to so many bookish boxes. So I will be back. So I finished The Poet Empress. I have some notes. I just filmed a TikTok about my thoughts, and talking about that there will hopefully get more of my thoughts in order for you guys on YouTube. Safe to say, I did do a little bit of a 180 on this book. I was really struggling in the last update. I just felt like this book could not retain my attention. I had very little motivation to pick it up. Mostly the motivation was there because I wanted to film this vlog and read new releases, but it did get good at 270 pages. My copy is 390 pages. That is about 100 pages worth of enjoyment, which is good that 100 pages like got really, really good, but it's not good that it took that long for me to get to that point. There's a lot of positive reviews for this book, but I do want to really emphasize that I am only really, really enjoying the last 100 or so pages, which is good, but also not good. I think the biggest problem was that for those first 270 pages, we were mostly experiencing Wei being so unready for this position and not really knowing what to do, and stumbling about and experiencing the insane levels of violence from Terran's character. I was really, really worried that Terran's character was just going to be like super, super evil, and then he would get a redemption arc, because that seems to be what fantasy is doing these days, giving everybody redemption arcs, and we don't really get that. In these last 100 or so pages, I think the author really locked the fuck in when it comes to character work, particularly with Terran's character, like the evil prince character, and Wei. Terran's character could have been just like a very boring surface level, just like generically like evil dude who tortures men, women, and animals, and like that's again, there's nothing wrong with that in books. I just felt like I was missing something. I just felt like, why is he the way he is? He can't have just gone from like sweet young innocent princeling to like horrible evil cruel man because some people said a few mean things to him. Like, the amount of violence that this man creates is insane. It's very dark and it's very bleak, but how does he get there? And when we finally got that last piece of the puzzle of how he became so cruel, things made a bit more sense. And again, I really appreciated that. But again, we only got that in the last 100 or so pages. For Wei's character, she was kind of like okay, like for the most part. She was just going through the motions of these things, and I didn't really get too much of her. But again, in the last 100 or so pages, she was really talking about morality and her growth as a person. She literally compares who she was when she first walked into the palace to the woman that she is now. And the story takes place over like a year and a half, 2 years. So it's a lot of things that she's gone through. And I love when characters are like literally having like moral ethics conversations with themselves. I love that in books. She struggles with the power that she's amassed because she gets a very high ranking concubine position, and that moral dilemma that she's going through, I really appreciated reading that. There's another book, I think it was The Justice of Kings, that really popular one, where they were discussing power in that one too, and I really didn't like it. I thought it was too surface level for what the book was trying to do, but I really enjoyed it in this one. We got some character work here that I appreciated in the last 100 or so pages. Very, very important domestic violence and intimate partner violence in this book. I've never been through a situation like that, thank goodness. So take my opinion with a grain of salt, but one of the more like insidious parts of relationships like that is that it's not always 0 to 100 just violence, you know what I mean? And because of plot reasons, our main character has to see, and we through her see, how this character went, Taryn's character went from like sweet young innocent boy to like cruel evil man. And the more that she understands him and his history, the more sympathy she gains for him, and that becomes very conflicting for her and for us, the audience. I don't take this as me like being an apologist or anything, but I think it was really important for the author to show that it's not always just violence, and that sympathy that grows, not for his actions as a grown man, but like it's a very sad feeling that our main character has for this character, not because of, you know, she just forgives everything that he's done. She doesn't, but it's like, you could have been a good person. I could have been with a good person. This world would have had a better person to look after it, and we don't have that now, and that's very, very sad. And I think that was really important to depict that kind of nuance in those relationships, because again, she doesn't just see the violence, and as their relationship grows, not in a romantic way, but it just grows and becomes more nuanced, we see that conflicting feeling in Wei and in ourselves. I was very conflicted with this character. I felt bad for him in moments, and I never want to feel bad for someone as cruel as Taryn. But again, it's not for him as a grown adult. It does end in like a fairly good note without spoilers, but I always worry about like good endings in books that are mostly like kind of bleak and intense, which this book has a lot of violence and a lot of cruelty. Some of the things that Wei goes through is very intense. So I worry if like giving it like a really nice ending is worthy or realistic, or if it's something that is deserved, or you know what I mean. It just depends on the reader. Maybe like having a good ending in a very cruel book is like therapeutic, I guess. It just depends on what you like. The magic is not super in depth. If you are looking for something that is like, oh, let's like get into the nitty gritty of this poetry magic, because it's like poetry magic, you should probably assume that it's going to be a little bit more like figurative and like flowery than like hard and fast rules and stuff like that. We do get a little bit of it, but it's not at the forefront of the story for the most part. There's also like a cool dragon, but again, not at the forefront of the story for the most part. I did cry reading this, but I'm a sap when it comes to physical media. Not physical media, but like books and visual media. I do cry more easily. I'm a bit more in tune with my emotions when I read or watch something. So again, take that with a grain of salt, but I cry when characters have to make tough decisions. I cry when characters have to give up certain things. And there's a little bit of a reunion in the last 2 or 3 pages that made me emotional. For a debut, I thought this was very good. Like I said, I did have struggles like maintaining my attention or wanting to keep reading, but maybe that's something that the author will work on with their later works. But I don't imagine this ever being on like someone's worst of list. There's mostly super positive reviews, but I do want to give a little pushback that it took a while for me to really enjoy this. 270 pages out of 390 is like not great. That is The Poet Empress. I am going to keep this book. I was thinking about giving it away or selling it, despite the fact that it's gorgeous, because I wasn't really enjoying it, but I did enjoy it overall towards the end. So we are keeping this book, but that means we also have to go choose our next read. So we're going back to the shelves. So we are back with my new releases shelves. I am bent over right now, so not very comfortable, but maybe I'll move these to a different shelf and I won't have to be constantly bending over for this. But like I said, we are going to pull from my like TBR acorn. I'm actually kind of excited because I never pull from like TBR jars or anything like that, and I'm going to choose 2 and then I'll choose the one that I want to read from there, because I'm still a mood reader and I want to have like some agency in what I read. Choosing from 2 feels more comfortable to me than just choosing 1 at a time. I hope that makes sense. But all these books should be in the jar. The first book is A Rather Vengeful Accord, which is, this is a Illumicrate book. This is, I think, also a debut fantasy. I want to say that we follow 2 characters who want to go to an elite college, St. Pendergast. I want to say that the students at this academy are taught to like raise and kill the dead, but they have to have like pairs, or they have to work with like in a duo. Like that's how the magic works. I'm not quite sure, I obviously haven't read it, but she has to team up. Our main character has to team up with like an enemy of theirs, so it's kind of like a school setting, like a necromancy maybe, which does sound interesting. So this is a good choice. I would be down for a school setting right now. And then my second choice is The Second Death of Locke. I don't know if you can see that, which is a very popular novel. I don't like the Illumicrate cover. I like the original cover, but the naked book is super beautiful. This is a very hyped up release. I kind of don't want to read a hyped up release because I just read The Poet Empress, but in this book we follow a lady knight who is supposed to protect her like mage Kier, and I believe that there's already an established romance between them, which I do struggle with. They are on a quest to protect the child of an enemy kingdom, and they pull them into a dangerous nation's war. It says Gray and Kier will need to decide what they are willing to sacrifice to protect their secret. It says The Second Death of Locke is a devastatingly romantic epic fantasy about the undying bond between a knight and their mage, perfect for fans of Gideon the Ninth and the 6 Deaths of the Saint. I haven't heard too much about this one, so I kind of want to read it. Maybe there's a reason I haven't heard too much about this one, because it's not very good, and if it's not very good I can unhaul it, and I would like to read books so I can unhaul them. I would like to do an unhaul maybe mid-year, so I'm kind of leaning towards this one. I know because everyone's been really enjoying or just like reading this one, but I would like to read a school setting right now. I think I'm gonna read A Rather Vengeful Accord by Danielle Knight. If you haven't seen the cover of this edition, really cool. I actually really like the artwork in the inner cover, because sometimes the artwork that they give fantasy books just reads contemporary romance, even though it's supposed to be like a darker fantasy, you know what I mean? Anyways, so I'm gonna put Second Death of Locke back into the jar, and then we're gonna read this for book 2. I'll be back. Okay, so the AC popped on. I'm really confused. I have no updates for the book, but I got another Fairy Loot package. I guess they're more backed up than I thought, because I thought the box that I opened earlier in the earlier clip, those were my March books, the books for March, but maybe they are that was February and this is March. I don't know what's going on with Fairy Loot, but let's open this up. Unless they send me duplicates, I honestly don't know what's in this. Okay, yeah, so I guess that was the February box, and this is the March box. So they are super backed up. So this is the young adult fantasy, which is called Her Hidden Fire by, I cannot pronounce this author's name. It looks Irish or something. It says, in a world where magic belongs only to elite, our main character, can't pronounce that name either, is a servant girl with a hidden power, forced to gamble everything to save the heir she loves. And I literally just got this on my front door. I don't love just like plain character art as the cover, but oh, I do remember seeing this cover around. Here's the original cover in like a different colorway. The naked is beautiful as always. Here are the, oh, that's actually really pretty. I love the trees. The character art is lovely as well. Oh, more character art. See, I would prefer character art just on the inside. I don't love it on the cover. I wish there was something more intricate here, but it's fine. So that is the YA box for, or the YA book for March. Let's see what the adult one is. This is, the theme is As the Stars Foretold. This is The Last Starborn Seer by Venetia Constantine. Marked by prophetic magic, Leilani is forced into an arranged marriage as a deadly curse drives the realms towards ruin. To save Arcelia, she must follow a prophecy that will test her power and her heart. Okay, this book looks really pretty. I can tell from even through the wrapping. Okay, see, this is character art done right. This is so beautiful. And here's the back. Oh, the back is so pretty as well. The sprayed edges is fine. I don't need anything fancy for sprayed edges. I know a lot of people love sprayed edges. It's whatever. Ooh, this is actually really pretty. This is probably my favorite character art I've seen in a while. Sometimes character art just like leans like very contemporary, like I said earlier. But this character art is actually like really well done. It looks really pretty. And the naked, I mean, that's really good too. Let me see if there's any more I can say on this one, because I thought it was fun. Oh, and this is what the original cover looks like. I haven't really seen this one talked about that much. The last of a ruined bloodline, she's shunned for her volatile starborn magic, which grants her prophetic visions, but is slowly corrupting her mind. Branded a pariah, Leilani is blamed for the sickening, wasting curse that fractured the realms of Arcelia and plunged them into war. Ooh, I do like cursed characters, like when you as an individual are like thought to be like a bad omen or something. I think that's really interesting. This book is stunning. So I do need to add these to the acorn, but Fairy Loot, you got to get on this, because I thought I had just received the March box. That was the February box. Very bad. Very, very bad. But I mean, I don't have a huge problem because I have a lot of books to read anyways. I don't need the books like on immediately, you know, because I have other stuff to read. But I can understand if you spend a lot of money on this and this is the only book subscription purchase that you have because it's what you can afford and they take forever to get to you. I get that. I've seen a lot of problems with Fairy Loot lately, so yeah. Okay, reading update time. I just finished filming a TikTok and my April TBR, which hopefully will be up within like the next few days. Biggest thing from that TBR is that I will be participating in the magical readathon, which I'm really excited about. I would like to actually like participate in this readathon consistently, especially now that the creator has like added like graduate level courses. If you're not familiar with a magical readathon, I will also link that down below here as well. But it's basically like a D&D style like magical school readathon where you choose a career you'd like to aspire to be, and you have to do certain classes to like get to that career, and each class is like a book you get the gist. To pass a class you have to read a book. Anyways, that will be up soon, but I do have an update for A Rather Vengeful Accord. I've only got the first 50 pages down. This is not well explained at all. I hate being negative. I'm always the type of reader that I could try to find like the positive in something, and I do like the tone of this. I think some people had written that they didn't like the tone of this. It's very like not mean, but it's very like kind of crass in some ways. Like there's like dirty jokes, but not like in a bad like disgusting dude type of way, but it's just a little bit sarcastic, maybe very British, if that's like the humor of British people. This is written by a British person, but it is not explained well. The world building, the magic is not very good. Obviously, I would just suggest you do actually have to read the summary, and then there is a glossary in the back. Now, I love glossaries because they can be very helpful to kind of get a refresher. I feel like it was really mandatory for me to really understand these first 50 pages based off the glossary. If I did not read the glossary, I would still be at a complete loss. I've read everything in that glossary back to front, things that I haven't even encountered yet in the story, because it was very confusing. And I mean, I read a lot of fantasy. I read high fantasy, I read low fantasy, I read urban paranormal, I've read, you know, I read sci-fi and stuff. It was very hard to understand. So I'm thinking maybe it's not a me thing, it's like a book thing. But now that I've done all my reading, and now I understand what the story is angling to, I am interested to see what's going to go on. But there is a kind of element to this that I don't usually like go for, and that's like competition stuff. I know competitions are really popular right now, but essentially our main character wants to go to the school, St. Pendergast, which is a school where you can either study to be a student that raises the dead. They're called gravers, and there's like dark magic involved in that. When there's a saint that you pray to, and she's the reason why there's like undead, like eldritch horror monsters walking around. Or you can also become a student, and they're called spires, I want to say, and they put down the dead in these kind of like big arena like fighting battles. It's giving like Hunger Games, but it's not as dystopian as the Hunger Games, not that I can tell, but it's supposed to be a big spectacle, like an entertainment almost. And our main character wants to be a graver, but for reasons, she's probably more inclined to be a spire. I think that's what they're called. Unfortunately, the two professors, or the two heads of these sub classes, whatever they're called, they're only taking a few students at a time, and it's going to be a little bit of competition to see like which students they accept as like official like prodigies or novices or whatever. Again, whatever the title. Again, this is not explained very well. So I'm kind of like having a hard time explaining it to you because it was not explained well to me. But that's where we're at with the story. Now that I understand, I am looking forward to this more. We'll see how I feel about it in the like mid-book check-in. I did get something in the mail. Remember how I said that I never get new releases, but I just happened to start filming this around the time where I'm gonna get a bunch of like bookish mail. I got Green Deadly Things by Jen Lyons. This is a new release. This is from the Broken Binding SFF subscription that you know that I subscribe to. This says, centuries ago, necromancy almost destroyed the world. That's how history remembers it. History remembers it wrong. So apparently this takes place in a world that has been fighting against necromancy for quite some time, and we follow a character named Matthias, who has joined this order that's supposed to like defend the world from necromancy. But these monsters have started coming back to life and have started like infecting the forest, and even the forests are coming alive, and it's a big threat. And Matthias decides to awaken like an old like order, like one of like an old knight that has fought against these monsters before. And that's kind of where the story starts. I'm not sure if this is a standalone or it's the beginning of a series, but I know that I've been seeing a lot of like dark fantasy announced recently. Love that concept, and a lot of plant-based like horror, sci-fi, fantasy as well. You haven't seen this edition, so I guess I'll show you. This is the cover. Really cool. The naked. Here are what the pages look like. Spine, and then I do like the character art here. I think this is supposed to be like the knight or whoever he wants to awaken to like save the world. And if this is what the monsters look like, I'm so down. That looks so cool. So this is new to the collection. I will be putting it in my TBR jar, TBR acorn. Love getting new books. Love that my TBR is growing. But yeah, that's pretty much the update. I will come back when I have stuff to say about this book and whether I mean, I'm probably gonna continue it because I hate DNFing, but we'll see what I have to say about this. So I do have a little bit of an update. I am about 150 pages into this, which I think is a good place to do a check-in before I do my last check-in. If I only do one more check-in, I might do another if I have something important to say. But I am liking this a little bit more than my last update. My last update was not good for the book. I'd understand if you wanted to DNF it after like the 50 pages that I've read. The introduction was just like not good. It was just not a good introduction to this world. I had to read the glossary. I had to reread things a couple times, and I'm no stranger to world building. Now, however, we are at like the actual meat of the story where our main characters are at the school to learn how to spire. They've had their first big test. We're meeting characters. We actually had a really interesting conversation about a war. I didn't mention it before because it wasn't super important, but there is a war going on between the Commonwealth, which is the countries that both of these characters are from. There's two of them, and another country which is called the Ascendancy, I want to say, and they're at war, and they were having kind of a moral discussion about the approaches to war, which I like those kinds of conversations. It just felt a little too real because of what's happening in Iran right now, or Iran. But you know, one of our characters was like, no, we have to beat them into submission. We've been at this for so long, we need to just finish it. And another character's like, we need to be a bit more of a pacifist when it comes to war. Interesting conversations about war. I appreciated that. We're in the school setting now, and I don't know if this was pitched as dark academia. I don't know how much it's actually going to critique the pitfalls of academia, which is what makes it a dark academia. But it is dark in that they are these like monsters, and everything just feels so gothic, which I appreciate, that the tone and the vibe. Again, the humor is very like, I wouldn't say like one-linery. A lot of people said it's too light. I was looking at reviews because I was thinking about DNFing this, which I never do. A lot of people were like, oh, the humor is like too much for a dark book like this. I actually think the humor is not light. I think it's just like asshole humor. Like if you're a bit of a dick, you might actually like this humor. And I don't mean that in like a bad way. If you like, you are like, you know, sometimes I'm kind of a bitch, and that's fine. But that's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this book as far as like humor and stuff. There's one thing that I don't like, and it's not that I can't understand, I totally can, but the dialogue doesn't have the 2 quotation marks. It has single quotation marks, which I don't know if that was like an editing formatting choice or the author like specifically wanted that. But yeah, that's just one thing. It's just my eyes, I'm just so used to like double quotation marks, not like a single quotation mark. But that's where we are so far. We've met some cool characters. I am having a better time right now. If the book were to end with the mood that I have right now, I'd probably give it like a 3.5, which is pretty good. But that beginning was rough. I gotta say, it was not a good intro to this world. So we'll see how this ends. If it ends mediocre, I might just unhaul this, but we'll see. I got something else in the mail. I was thinking to myself, surely I'm not going to get anything else in the mail. And I was like, I think I've gotten all my monthly stuff already before like the vlog started. Obviously not, because I've gotten so much stuff since I started filming this. But this is Illumicrate's monthly box. I do think I know of this box. Oh yeah, I heard about this one right off the bat. I don't love this cover redo. I think sometimes the covers for Illumicrate are kind of hit and miss compared to the originals. Like the second Death of Locke, that original cover, stunning. The redo, not my favorite. But this is Aisha by Soraya Boazawi. I'm so sorry, I totally butchered that author's name. But this is, I want to say, a reimagining, retelling of a princess warrior from like an actual person that lived. So the Portuguese flag has been planted across Morocco, its empire ruling with an iron fist, but eventually all empires must fall. Aisha, the daughter of a Moroccan freedom fighter, was born for battle. She has witnessed the death of her people, the starvation and torture at the hands of the occupiers, and has awakened an anger within her, an anger that burns hot and bright and speaks to Aisha's soul. Only Aisha's secret lover Rashid is a rebellion leader, knows how to soothe her, but as the fight for Morocco's freedom reaches its violent climax, the creature that simmers beneath Aisha's skin begs to be unleashed. It hungers for the screams of those who have caused her pain and will not be ignored. Aisha tells the story of Morocco's warrior goddess, her strange magic, vicious rebellion, and devastating romance. This is a story of female rage and lesser known myths that will sear you to the bone. That sounds fantastic, actually, but this is the cover. It's not bad. I'm just picky with like character art. I don't know. The sprayed edges look really cool. So this is the naked cover. I do like the character art here better because she's holding a skull. It's kind of glossy, which I don't usually see. And then here's the character art inside. Book-wise, very interested in reading this. I just wish that the cover redo was a little bit better. I'm just picky, I guess. I've heard good things about this one. I will be adding this to my Acorn TBR jar, which this is what, the 6th or 7th book I've added in the filming of this vlog. So I did finish the book and I liked it. The ending was fine. It sets up what's going to happen and we're focusing on the next book. I am worried though, because a big reason why my mood shifted during reading this was because we finally got to this school setting where our characters are training to become like spires, and it's very like fun, and you know, there's a lot of different characters that we meet at this new school, and love that. I'm worried that the next book is not going to have that focus. I won't say why, but things that happen towards the end of the book lead me to believe that they're not actually going to go back to the school for a minute anyways. I don't know how long this is supposed to be as like a series. I don't know if it's supposed to be a duology or a trilogy, I'm not sure, but I ended up having fun. That being said, I had to feed my dog. Okay, so what was I saying? So yeah, the ending was fun, fine. I don't blame someone if they DNF this in like the first like 50 pages. It was so confusing, not the best setup. It's one of the more poorly done setups for a world. I was lucky that they had a glossary. Like, we're lucky that I don't know if this is the glossaries in the like standard edition. This is obviously the Lumicrate edition, but it was fun. Would I buy, like, if they did the sequel, if Illumicrate did the sequel to this book, would I buy it? I don't know. I might borrow it from a library, and if I really like it, Illumicrate will probably have like extras at some point. I'm probably gonna give this like 3 stars, which is still good because the beginning of this was really rough. I was really like, I can't, like, this book is lucky that I don't DNF. Like, I don't DNF ever. I don't like DNFing. I would say like the biggest problem other than the beginning was that our main character is just so ignorant of what I assume is supposed to be like common knowledge to her. To be fair, like, the characters are like, yeah, she's kind of naive, so fine, I guess. The romance is very like subtle. It's not over the top. It's not like immediately like I'm so in love with you type of thing either. So if that's something that you enjoy, but it's definitely there. There's definitely like hints about it. And I did find out that I liked that trope that I had talked about earlier, the whole like playing into like the media thing. I found out that I do kind of like that. It's really fun. It's really entertaining. So yeah, we'll stick with a 3-star on this one. I don't know if I'll unhaul it. Maybe whenever the sequel comes out and I read that, and if it's something that I want to keep going on, I'll keep this. But if not, I'm happy to give this away if like the next book is not good at all, or it's just like whatever, like a pretty mid installment. That means that we have one more book to read for this vlog. I really want to get this done as soon as possible because I want to start vlogging the magical readathon vlog, and then I'm also going to go to Austin this month, and I wanted to vlog some of that, but maybe I'll just combine magical readathon and Austin in the same vlog. I think that would be fun. Sorry for the poor lighting, by the way. It's like super cloudy today. So let me take you to my shelves so we can pick our last book. So we're back here on my new releases shelf. I was gonna move this up so I'm not like super hunched over, but I guess I'll just do that in another video. But here are my new releases. I've added everything that I've gotten in this vlog, so hopefully no more books come in. They won't. Nothing's gonna come in anymore. So let's mix up my TBR jar and pick 2 books to read from. The first one is, I'll show you first. What is that? What is that? Operation Bounce House by Matt Dinaman. That's not good. So Operation Bounce House is a new release from Matt Dinman, the same author of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. This is a standalone. This is about a group of people who live on a different planet, and they are trying to like terraform it so it's habitable for future generations of humans. However, the company that is in charge of terraforming this planet, I believe, starts like a extinction level operation called Operation Bounce House, and they get a bunch of like streamers or gamers to like commit the genocide of these people, and the locals have to like rise up. So this would be a very good choice. However, this is on my magical readathon TBR, so I will read this, but this one does not count. I should have taken it out of the bowl, my bad. But this will be read, just not in this vlog. I'll choose 2 more because that's not fair to me or to you. We'll choose the second one. This one is that the Sun and the Sun and the Starmaker. Oh, we just got this one. So The Sun and the Starmaker by Rachel Griffin. We just got this one, so I kind of already talked about it briefly, but we follow a character who lives in this place called the Reverie, and they are dependent on the Starmaker, and every morning he trudges across a vast glacier and pulls in sunlight over the peaks, providing the village with the light it needs to survive. Aurora Finch grew up on the tales of the Starmaker's magic, never imagining she'd one day meet him, but on the morning of her wedding, a fateful encounter in the frostbitten woods changes everything. So I've heard that this is kind of like the Bear and the Nightingale vibes, which I did read the first book, and obviously it's a very like cool book. Like, it looks like very wintry. This could be something to read now if you were a mood reader and you like go by the seasons, because like spring is basically here. So this is a good choice. I'm gonna choose the second one because Operation Bounce House. And then the second choice is Salt Swept. Oh, this would also be a good choice because I love nautical fantasies. So Salt Swept by Catalina Watt. This is also a Lumicrate choice. This is a pirate faces the gallows drop. A farmer is given a terrible ultimatum to save her daughter. An acolyte ascends to priestesshood only to find that a blessing can really be a curse. These unlikely bedfellows band together with an unscrutable pickpocket and a talking otter cat in pursuit of the most hopeless of causes, to sail into the maelstrom, a raging whirlpool from which no one has ever escaped, to find the mysterious treasure hidden within. I actually really like pirate nautical fantasies. This could be fun, and I haven't really heard anyone talk about it. It looks like it's multi-perspective, and it's the first book in an epic fantasy duology. I believe it's also a debut author. So these are my choices. I honestly don't know. I think I'll go with, I kind of want to read something pretty, and I feel like this might have like a more like a lush type of writing, you know? I think we'll go with this one. Yeah, we'll go with this one. The Sun and the Starmaker by Rachel Griffin. I think that's a good choice. I feel confident about that one. So I guess I'll get started on it and then come back when I have some updates. Sorry for the weird angle. Sorry for the poor lighting. It's not my day, and I started my period. Like I'm having a rough day. Okay, bye. So I'm back, and I have a little update. This is like the beginning first 50 pages update that I'd like to do. So we've gotten to essentially what the summary has explained to us. Our main character Aurora lives in this little valley town called Reverie, and they don't get sun. There's a really like cute like folktale at the beginning of the story, kind of like the prologue, that explains like the lore. So essentially there's this little village valley that the sun loved and adored, and one day there was kind of like an earthquake, and like the land shifted, and there's a bunch of peaks and mountains around this village, and they don't get sun. And the sun, which I guess is, you know, like an entity, was very sad, so she became human for a little bit to visit the town, this village that she adored, because it was so up north that like that's the village that she saw every day. So she visits this village as a human and falls in love with a person, with a man, and they have a little bit of a romance, but obviously the sun has to go back to being the sun. So the sun leaves a part of herself in this man, and this man becomes the Starmaker, and he brings sun to the village. It's like a job essentially now. That makes it sound super formal, but it's like his purpose is to bring a part of her to this village. It's supposed to be like a really cute romantic fairy tale within this world, and our main character has grown up with this folk tale since she was a child. And just because you're the Starmaker doesn't necessarily mean that you are immortal and that this is going to be your job forever. We learn really quickly that it is something that gets passed down. How specifically is not quite clear yet, but there's been like 3 or 4 Starmakers at this point, and that kind of makes it seem less romantic to me. But I guess because this is YA, you don't want like a 300-year-old entity falling in love with like an 18-year-old, like, you know what I mean. Our main character is older now. She's like 18 and she's gonna get married, and the guy that she's marrying, she likes him. Like she thinks he's a respectful young guy, but the biggest motivation for her to marry him is that these ley lines connect, like when families get joined through marriage, this is like this ley line connects them, and that ley line brings a little bit of sun. And our main character, not only does this valley not get any sun, but her home in particular gets very, very little sun or no sun at all. So by connecting through marriage, her family gets like a little bit more. It's kind of hard to explain, but that's the biggest motivation. And her sister has recently gotten sick with the frost, which is essentially like some sort of like cold sickness, and you know, she's turning like blue or something. Like she's not getting any better. She might pass away, and a lot of people die from this. So she thinks, okay, if I marry this guy, he might, his ley line will connect to my ley line, and blah blah blah. But on the day of her wedding, or the day before her wedding, she runs into the Starmaker, and the Starmaker immediately notices that she has magic in her, and that she is going to be, I don't consider this a spoiler, it's like the beginning of the story, but should be the next Starmaker. And that's kind of where we are so far. So far, it's like fine, and it's moving at a pretty quick pace. I guess maybe the author just wants to jump into the story. This is pretty much like what the summary has told us. I wanted to pick this up because I wanted like a kind of pretty type of vibe, a kind of whimsy type writing, and it's pretty straightforward. It does have the elements of like cutesy, cozy whimsy, like the setting, the village, the kind of like homey, like close-knit village feeling, that's all there. It's like covered in snow all the time. This would obviously be perfect in a more like cold part of the year. I live in Texas. It's like 70-80 degrees outside, so it has the elements of like that vibe, but the writing is not what I thought it would be, which is fine. I just kind of assumed because of the way that the book looks, and I guess like the marketing of it. It's not blowing me away right now, so we'll see. Oh, I forgot to mention, she's gonna go with the Starmaker to learn to be like the next Starmaker or whatever that's called, but she's like, I have some conditions. 1, you have to help my sister because she's dying, and 2, I was gonna marry this man and his ley line was supposed to help my family, so marry me instead. Like she had like the balls to be like, you're gonna marry me instead, and like they're gonna get something out of this. And the Starmaker's like, okay, fine, why not? I guess it's like a marriage of convenience type thing that we're going with right now. I kind of expected a romance to be there, so we'll see how it flourishes and how it develops, since they're already kind of like gonna get married. That is the update. It's completely fine for now. I am gonna be so honest. I think this main character is kind of annoying, and I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. I am about 180 pages into this. I'm gonna try to cover the light with my head. I have poor lighting right now. Anyways, this character is kind of annoying. I'm trying to be nice and give her the benefit of the doubt because she's young and her life has been upended. So like, she was gonna get married and she's gonna have a normal life and she's gonna try to support her family, and then one day, you know, the Starmaker is like, hey, you're the next Starmaker, you have to come with me, I have to teach you how to use the magic or else you'll die. Like, you can't just have the sun inside of you. Like, that's too much for a human. So yeah, like, I get her being frustrated, and I normally don't mind that. I also love when characters can be kind of bitchy. I think that's really needed with like our female leads, because it's either like shy girls or like, I don't know, like, I don't mind characters being bitchy, but like if you're gonna be kind of bitchy, like I can be kind of bitchy, I expect people to like throw it back at me, you know what I mean, like someone to clap back. And our main character is talking to the Starmaker, and she's like rude and stuff, and she's like, hey, like I had a life before this, and you know, she's very short with him, and he's like, yeah, I know, but like this is my job, like I have to teach you how to do this or else you'll die. And they bicker back and forth, which is normally fine. And then he'll, at one point, he said something like super off the cuff, like, I don't even think about you past the job. And she got so emotionally sad, and like little things like that, I'm like, girl. She's like, I can't believe he's so mean and da-da-da. And it's like, girl, what else? Okay, so another instance, I'm trying to like not give away like major spoilers, but there's another instance where like the first day that he's teaching her how to like bring the sun into the valley, he's like, this is what's gonna happen. It's gonna hurt a lot. You've never done this before. It's a lot of magic at once. Like, but once you get used to it, like once you really come into your own, like bringing the sun into the village will be like way easier, and it's not even gonna hurt. It's just gonna be like work. And she's like, okay. And so she does it for the first time, and it is super painful. And she's like, you know, kneeling over on the ground, and she's like crying because she's in so much pain, and he's like rubbing her back. And then later on that night at dinner, she's like, you never gave me any warning, and I don't know what, like that was so horrible. Like, is this gonna be like this the whole time? And he was like, oh, I'm sorry, like it is what it is. And I'm like, no, but he did give you the warning. Like, he did say it was going to be super painful. I don't, you know what I mean? Like, she's just so like whiny, and she doesn't expect people to like respond to that whininess. It's very frustrating. And she always has some hardness to her. And I guess, again, I'm trying to give her the benefit of the doubt. Like, she's in a tough situation. This is not the life that she had thought that she would have. So she's a little frustrated in general. And I get that. But it's also kind of like, you are mature. Like, I get from the writing and the life that this character has lived, she should be more mature for her age because of what she's gone through and how much responsibility she's had in her life, like taking care of her sisters. She's talked about how her father had passed away, and she kind of like took over like her sister's life, like as her mother, while her mother was like, I don't know, catatonic or whatever. And so like I expect some maturity of her. I expect her to be like, this is my responsibility. And she's just kind of whiny about everything. And then when the Starmaker is like rude to her in response to her rudeness, it's like, oh, I can't believe he's so mean to me. And it's like, well, yeah, I actually can't believe that he's mean to you. It's not like you guys are like bantering, like you're kind of just being mean. I will say that the magic, the way it kind of manifests, does sound pretty. So like one thing is that I mentioned how the sun at the beginning like fell in love with a human man, and when she had to leave, she gave a part of her magic to him, and that's what created the Starmaker, and he has to bring sun to the village. Well, you can't stop being the Starmaker until you find the next Starmaker, and it's not like hereditary or whatever. Like, you just kind of like, you will find them at some point. It could take 100, 200, 300 years. So we are currently on the 4th Starmaker, and he finds Aurora, and she's now the Starmaker rising because she's going to be the next one. The 4th Starmaker tells her, like, even in death, like, you still have a purpose, and that is like when you get buried as a Starmaker, like your body like fuels the land and makes it like more magical. So a bunch of like weird magical stuff happens every now and then. Like, for example, this young girl passed away while she was making snow angels, and she got really cold and she passed away. So like the snow angel like came to life. Like little things like that, which is like cute and whimsy. I do like that. But the writing itself is like pretty straightforward. I just thought it'd be nicer, and like our main character is kind of annoying. But that's pretty much my take so far. I just had to get that off my chest. I'm not even halfway through, but I just needed to say something. Halfway through would be like 219 pages. It's like I'm at 180. So I just wanted to say that. I have a feeling I might have to unhaul this when I'm done. It's not going to wow me, but we'll see the second half. Stranger things have happened, as you've seen in this vlog. So I'm back. I have a bit of an update. I'm on page 280, I think. Yeah, 280. So I think I have like 150 pages left. And things have gone like a little bit better. Things have gotten a little better. Aurora, our main character, is not as annoying. I think she kind of finally realized that the Starmaker is like also a person who has feelings, and he's also gone through some things. And I guess, you know, she's 18, so we're gonna give her the benefit of the doubt. But she's a bit better, and she's kind of been a bit more sympathetic to him and his journey. We're kind of at the point now in the story where there's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for, like existentialism that we're kind of talking about, because Starmakers are essentially immortal until they find the next Starmaker. And when they find the next Starmaker, the current Starmaker starts losing their magic to the next one, and they start like becoming human again and aging, and then they'll eventually age like a normal person and then pass away. The current Starmaker is Starmaker number 4. We've never gotten his name, by the way. He's just the Starmaker. He's been alive for like a couple hundred years, maybe 100, 200 years, and everyone that he's known has died. He has a staff that works with him in the castle that he lives in, like at the highest peak of the mountain or whatever, and a lot of the staff have passed, animals, pets have passed, so he's like super withdrawn, and I do feel really bad for him. That just seems like a horrible life to live. So there's a lot of like, I'm gonna die soon, I've made my peace with it, but also Aurora doesn't want to get too close to him because she's gonna live for a while and he's gonna pass away. So that's kind of like what the predicament is, and like I totally get that, but I'm just like not super moved by a lot. Like, it's fine, there's nothing wrong with this. I thought the writing was gonna be a bit more like beautiful and like lend to that tragedy. The magic is like very whimsy, like I explained that angel thing earlier. We have a few more instances of like the magic doing like odd weird things to like the land or objects or whatever. There was a moment where our main characters kind of went into the local village, the town, and a lamp or a lantern started singing a lullaby and everyone kind of fell asleep, and so the Starmaker had to like wake everyone up. Like little instances like that, that's just kind of full of whimsy. I'm assuming, because this is like a romance, it's fantasy romance, that there's gonna be a way that our main characters will have like a happily ever after. That's what I'm assuming. We'll see how that goes, or maybe not. Maybe the author will do like a little bit of a tragedy. That would be sad, but I would actually really love that from like a thematic standpoint. Yeah, I don't see myself falling in love with this in the last 100 pages, 150 pages. So this might be like an unhaul. Not a bad experience so far, but it's just a nice little standalone that you can probably borrow from your library. I'm trying to think of anything like has really moved me. There's obviously like romantic tension between the two main characters, the Starmaker and Aurora, but it's not super romantic either. Like, I'm not super interested in this journey that Aurora's going into to become the next Starmaker. They're like referencing like her trying to get stronger in the magic so that the Starmaker can finally like retire, but also we're not getting a lot of like development in the we're getting a little bit more development in relationship than Aurora trying to become the new Starmaker, so I guess it's more romantic than not. But the actual, like, we're just getting like cute moments between them for like the last 50 pages. So at about 230 is when it starts getting like a bit more romantic and a bit more like emotionally charged, but I'm not super like moved. I keep saying that, like I'm not super moved. It's fine. So that's the update. I will probably not make another one until I finish this book and then wrap up this vlog. Hopefully I can get this filmed and uploaded by Saturday, because that is the day of my trip and I can just press upload. And then I do have to film a book haul because I want to talk about all the books that I've hauled in the first quarter of the year. So a couple things I got to do before I go on my trip. Peace. So we are here to finish up this vlog, but before I do need to give my last final thoughts on the Sun and the Starmaker. This is the last book I finished, the last book of this vlog. It keeps falling off, so I'm just going to take out the naked book. I don't think my thoughts on this have really changed. I do want to elaborate on a few things though. I did really feel a lot more emotionally invested in this story, in the couple, in the relationship, in the characters, once it really finally dawned on them after they've kind of realized their feelings for each other, the tragedy of the situation. Our main character is going to be the Starmaker, and she's going to live for a very long time, and she's now fallen in love with, and this isn't a spoiler, I think it's like super obvious, but now she's fallen in love with the previous Starmaker. He's going to pass away at some point in the future as well, so it's kind of like a doomed narrative. I really love those narratives. I really enjoy the kind of like musings that characters have been having. I've been really enjoying that in my reading, when characters are kind of just like going through a lot of like maybe like philosophical questions, maybe not in this particular book, but just like thoughts on like death and grieving and being prepared for death, things like that. I find really fun and interesting, and I believe this is supposed to be YA. Yeah, this is a young adult fantasy, so I really like seeing that for a younger audience. I think that's really helpful. I think it's something that everyone has to come to terms with at some point. Maybe a younger person would, but I did really appreciate that aspect of the story more. I would like to see if this could have been reworked into like a shorter story, just because the middle chunk, when our main characters are getting to know each other and learning about this new role that she has to take on, I feel like I was just kind of missing some greater sentimentality. I wasn't super connected to the middle of the book where our characters are getting to know each other, the part that is supposed to make me yearn and like kick my feet and things like that. I just didn't really get it at that point. Only towards the end. Again, this seems to be a theme with a lot of these books. The endings really like hit it for me, but the meat and bones of it don't. I do think that, again, the magic was very pretty and whimsy at times. The sad parts during the end I really connected to, and I appreciated those parts. I don't know whether or not I'll keep this. I feel like it's going to be one of those books that, like, the more I've been away from it, the less I'll have a lot of strong feelings for. I do think it's a nice story. That's kind of why I think that this might have been reworked into like something shorter, like a novella would be interesting to see, because this is so folktale coded. It begins with like the folktale of the sun and the Starmaker, and it ends with a kind of similar parallel as well. And I think that those stories in general are just like best handled in like a shorter medium. Overall, I do think that this was like a good read, maybe like 3.5 stars. I did still really want, I said this before, but I just thought this would be like prettier writing wise. But I think, yeah, if you're definitely in the mood for something that focuses on like coming to terms with death and mortality, even when you think like, oh, that's not something that's going to happen to me soon, it will happen eventually. I think that's something that this book handled a lot, and sometimes I'm in the mood for that. I'm in the mood for like something tragic, and in a way this was kind of tragic. But yeah, I think I'm landing on a 3.5 stars. We'll see how I sit with this, and eventually I'll do an unhaul in the middle of the year, like around June or July, and then we'll see if this makes it in. But it's not a bad read, maybe just like not the most perfect thing I've ever read. I think that's pretty much all my thoughts on this one. That means that we're officially done with this new releases vlog. I had such a good time talking about some of these books, well, all of these books. I like yapping about books in general. Obviously, I would like to do this again in the future to read some more of these new releases, and I'm sure I'm gonna get new releases sometime soon with these subscription services. I do think overall these are like good choices. It's nice to see what's being published right now. As someone who mostly reads backlist stuff, after this I'm probably gonna immediately go into filming my magical readathon vlog. We'll see how many books I can read off of that. Hopefully all of them. It's only 7 books, but you see how long it takes me to get through some of these. Have you read any of these books? Are you interested in reading any of these books? Do you often get to new releases before backlist titles? Like, what do you prefer to get to before the other? I would love to hear anything you have to say down below. I will also link my social medias down below. I will also link my social medias down below, as well as some far more important links. Feel free to like, dislike, comment, or subscribe, or do neither. It's all cool with me. If you don't know what to say, just leave an emoji. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.